Human life is strange. We often measure our lives by the things we do not have. We say, if I had this, life would be better. If I had that, I would be happy. There's just one thing missing. And in counting what is missing, we forget that the things we already have are someone else's dream. Complaining becomes such a habit that we forget how to be grateful. When we wake up in the morning, we count our problems. When we go to sleep at night, we think about our shortcomings. But we rarely stop and ask ourselves, is what I have really so little? Or am I ungrateful simply because my eyes are always fixed on what is far away? Think of a tree. If it bears no fruit, do we call it useless? We say, what's the point of it? Nothing grows on it, but we fail to see that in the heat of summer it gives cool shade. It gives rest to travelers. It offers shelter to birds. Its roots hold the soil together and protect the land from being washed away. Just because it has no fruit, should all its blessings be denied? This is the same mistake we make with our own lives. We look at life through the lens of what is missing. What we don't have appears very clear. What we do have begins to feel ordinary. When we have health, we don't value it. When illness comes, only then do we realize its worth. When loved ones are near, we ignore their importance. When they are gone, we miss them. When time is available, we waste it. When it passes, we regret it. This story is about that way of thinking. It teaches us that ingratitude is not just about words. It is a kind of blindness that prevents us from seeing the beauty of our own lives. And sometimes, just on change in thought, just on positive perspective can change the direction of an entire life. Today's story also begins with such a mindset, where two people were on the same journey, but their way of seeing life was completely different. A journey is not only about roads. Sometimes a journey reveals a person's mindset. This story begins long ago, when distances between cities were great and people traveled on horseback, in carts, or on foot. In that time, there were two young men, Ethan and Lucas. They were from the same village, had gone to the same city, and had worked in the same place for 3 years. Yet there was one fundamental difference between them: their way of thinking. Ethan was calm by nature. He spoke little, but when he did, his words were thoughtful. When difficulties came, he did not panic. He tried to understand the situation first, and then made decisions with patience and trust. He believed that every hardship carried a purpose. Lucas was the complete opposite. He was quick-tempered. His heart was not bad, but emotions easily took control of him. Even a small obstacle made him angry, and when trouble appeared, complaints followed immediately. He believed life was only fair when everything went according to his plan. 3 years had passed. The city lights, the crowds, and constant hard work had exhausted them both. Now their hearts beat for only one place: home. They missed their mother's prayers, their father's silent love, and the scent of the soil where their childhood had passed. At night, memories of home stole their sleep. In the morning, those same memories gave them strength to travel. When the day of return arrived, there was peace on Ethan's face. For him, this journey was not just about distance, it was a journey of gratitude. He was thankful that life had at least given him the chance to return to his loved ones. Lucas also longed for home, but his restlessness was different. He wanted everything quickly. 3 years felt like too much time, and any obstacle on the way felt like an injustice to him. They were on the same road, heading toward the same destination, but their perspectives were completely different. And this is often how life works. The roads may be the same for everyone, but each person's journey is their own. This difference would later turn every hardship for them, either into suffering or into a lesson. The real test of a journey begins when the road stops being easy, when the destination feels close, but the steps grow heavy. The same happened to Ethan and Lucas. As soon as they left the city limits, they faced their first obstacle. Their carriage driver refused to take the forest route. He warned them that the forest was dangerous, filled with hunters' traps, and difficult to cross before nightfall. Lucas exploded with anger. He argued loudly. To him, this was just another injustice. He claimed everyone was making excuses, and no one understood their struggle. Ethan watched him silently. He knew anger never improves a situation. In the end, they had no choice but to continue the journey on foot. The destination was far, and time was slipping away. As soon as they entered the forest, everything changed. There was silence among the trees, broken only by the rustling of leaves and the occasional sound of an animal. Every step had to be taken carefully, as the ground was filled with hidden traps. Ethan walked slowly, studying every sign. Lucas wanted to move fast, but had to stop again and again. Gradually, exhaustion took over their bodies. Their legs grew heavy, their breathing quickened, and their throats dried with thirst. Yet the thought of home pushed them forward. With every step, Ethan remembered his mother's face. In every hardship, images of village streets appeared in their minds. After some time, they reached a fast-flowing river. At first they felt relief. Only this crossing remained. But the relief did not last long. The bridge that once stood there had been washed away by heavy rains. Lucas clenched his fists in anger. He felt as if fate itself was against him. Ethan looked at the rushing water, took a deep breath, and placed his trust in God. After careful thought, they decided to swim across. It was not easy. The current was strong. The waves tested their strength, but with courage and determination, they reached the other side. When their feet touched land, their bodies trembled. Their clothes were soaked, but their lives were safe. And sometimes, the greatest victory in life is simply surviving a hardship. Sometimes, difficulty is not only on the road, but in the heart and mind. After crossing the river, both Ethan and Lucas were exhausted, but the difference in their thinking was becoming clearer than ever. As they reached the other side, the rushing water swept away their water bottle. That bottle was not just an object, it was hope for the journey ahead. Now they had to continue without it. A shadow of anger and despair covered Lucas's face. Every new turn felt like another disaster. This journey was no longer just tiring. It felt unfair. Ethan, still in wet clothes, looked up at the sky. Words of gratitude rested on his lips. He knew losing the water bottle was a loss, but saving their lives was far more valuable. He quietly took out his last spare clothes and changed. Watching this, Lucas grew even more irritated. To him, gratitude felt like ignoring pain. He said bitterly, "How will we go on now? No water, no strength. Is this journey anything less than punishment?" Ethan did not argue. He knew not every question has an answer in words. Sometimes peace comes only through patience. Then the sky changed color. Dark clouds gathered, and heavy rain began to fall. The water they once lacked now became a danger. Lucas panicked. If their clothes got soaked, illness and cold were real threats. They ran through the forest, searching for shelter. Fortune favored them. They found a small hut, likely built by a hunter. Inside the hut, Ethan began collecting rainwater. What had once been lost was replaced by nature itself. Yet Lucas could not stop complaining. The coachman's refusal, the forest's danger, the broken bridge, and now the rain. He felt life was conspiring against him, and this belief made his heart even heavier. Ethan watched quietly. He had realized that something more dangerous than hardship, ingratitude, because hardship passes, but constant complaining breaks a person from within. And from this point onward, the direction of the story slowly began to change. The rain stopped, moisture filled the air, and the scent of wet soil rose from the ground. Ethan and Lucas resumed their journey. The forest was left behind, and an open sky awaited them ahead. As the day progressed, the sun rose with full intensity. The wet ground dried, but the heat exhausted them once again. Thirst returned, and hunger weakened their strength. Walking onward, they spotted small village houses in the distance. The destination was near, yet their steps had grown heavy. Every breath felt difficult, every step a test. At last, in the middle of the road, they saw a massive tree. Its branches stretched wide, and its dense shade spread across the ground. On the burning path, the tree felt like a blessing. Without speaking, they sat beneath it. Ethan took a deep breath, as if the shade cooled not only his body, but his heart as well. Lucas, drained with exhaustion, took out their last remaining food, and they ate in silence. For a moment, everything felt fine, but then Lucas's old habit returned. He looked up at the branches and said with a bitter smile, "What use is this tree? It's so big, gives so much shade, but it has no fruit. Completely useless." His words were not only about the tree, They were about life itself. He was seeing everything, only through what was missing. Ethan did not respond immediately. He stared quietly at the tree's trunk. He realized that without this shade, they might not have survived the heat. He thought, does everything have value only if it bears fruit, is worth only what can be seen? In that silence, the atmosphere changed. The air grew cool. The rustling leaves sounded like a message. This was the moment when life stopped being just a journey and became a lesson. And that tree, which Lucas had called useless, was about to tell its story. A strange silence spread beneath the shade. The air seemed to pause, as if nature itself was holding its breath. Ethan and Lucas sat quietly, when suddenly the soft rustling of leaves turned into a deep, powerful voice. This was not the wind. It was not human. It was the voice of the tree. "Travelers," the calm voice said, "you sit beneath my shade and call me useless." Lucas's body trembled. His heart raced. His eyes widened in fear. He had never imagined that nature could speak this way. The tree continued, "I have stood here for centuries. I have watched seasons change, rain fall upon the earth, and the sun complete its journey every day. You call me useless, only because I do not bear fruit. But have you ever noticed that my roots hold the soil together, so it is not washed away? My trunk gives coolness, my branches shelter birds, and my shade gives travelers the strength to survive." Each word fell heavily on Lucas's heart. He realized these words were not just for the tree, they were for him. "Everything has a purpose," the tree said. "You measure worth only by your needs, but nature does not exist for one alone. It exists for all." Ethan listened with his head bowed. He had always believed that everything has wisdom behind it. Today, that belief found words. Tears filled Lucas's eyes. He remembered his complaints, his ingratitude. Softly, he said, "Forgive me, I only saw what I lacked." The tree's voice softened. "Understanding is a person's true success," it said. "One who learns gratitude is never poor." The wind began to move again. Leaves rustled gently, and silence returned. But this silence was different. It was filled with understanding, peace, and change. Lucas was no longer the same man who had arrived beneath the tree. And from that moment, his true journey began. What happened beneath that tree was not just a strange event, it was life's deepest lesson. When Ethan and Lucas stood up to leave, they walked the same road, but their hearts were no longer the same. Lucas's steps were slower, but his restlessness was gone. Nothing on the road angered him anymore. He realized the real burden was not the journey, it was his own way of thinking. He recalled the past hardships, the coachman's refusal, the forest traps, the broken bridge, the lost water bottle, and the rain. Once they felt like punishment. Now he understood. Each hardship had protected them and taught them something. If the coachman had not stopped them, they might have taken a more dangerous route. If the bridge had not collapsed, they might never have tested their strength. If the water bottle had not been lost, they would not have valued the rain. For the first time, Lucas began to see life through gratitude instead of complaint. Ethan smiled as he watched him. For him, this change was nothing short of a miracle. He knew true success was not reaching the destination, but becoming a better person along the way. As they neared the village, the sun was setting, the air was cool, and children's laughter echoed in the distance. It was a sound Lucas had not heard in years. He looked up at the sky and whispered, "Thank you." The word was small, but for him, it meant everything. As they entered the village, their families recognized them instantly. Tears of joy, smiles, and prayers were waiting for them. That night, as Lucas lay in bed, he remembered the tree, its shade, its voice, its lesson. He understood that what we think is missing is often what holds our lives together. The message of this story is simple. We cry over the one thing we don't have and forget the 100 things we do. Life is like a basket of oranges. If we focus only on the rotten one, we lose the sweetness of the rest. So be grateful, value what you have, because gratitude does not just make life better, it makes life beautiful. If we learn gratitude, even hardships can turn into blessings. What you have today may be someone else's dream. This is the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like, share your thoughts, and join us again for the next meaningful story.